One, one, two. Love it. 1, 2, 3. Good afternoon, friends. Come on in, find a seat. I'm Rabbi Robert Silvers, Rabbi Emeritus of Congregation B'nai Israel. Thank you all for joining us here this afternoon. We've come to pay tribute to Nan Bolz, or as her family said to me, a celebration of life for her. First of all, my condolences to all the family, to Chuck, to Jonathan, to Craig, to Nan's brother, Jay. To all of you, my condolences. It's never, I should put it this way, it's always a difficult time, especially around the holiday season, to suffer loss. And I thank you all for your outpouring, clearly, of love and affection for this family by coming out here today. I often say when I officiate a memorial service, a funeral, that, believe it or not, this is the easy part. It's easy to come to this one-time event. It's harder in the weeks, the months, and the years ahead. For Nan's family, this is a hurt, this is a pain that doesn't disappear after the service, after Shiva, after the 30 days of Shloshim, or even after the 1 year of mourning by children for a parent. It never goes away. So I implore you, I encourage you to continue to be present for this family in their time of sorrow, not only right now, but in the days, the weeks, the months, and the years ahead, when they will continue to need that support, that friendship, and that love. From the beginning of Jewish history, our great teacher Moses himself seems to have been troubled with questions about the meaning of life and the mystery of death. And Moses came to the conclusion, Hanistarot ladonai, the mysteries belong to God. There are limitations to knowledge. There are things that the human mind cannot comprehend. Problems that were not meant to be solved. And in the face of such mysteries and problems, all we can do is recite the ancient words of Job. Adonai Natan v'Adonai Lakach. The Lord has given and the Lord has taken. And continue to place our faith in a God and in the ultimate meaning of life. Death has taken our beloved Nan Bolz, and our souls cry out to God, Adonai, Ma'adam v'tedaehu, ben enosh v'tichashvehu. God, what are we that you have regard for us? What are we that you are mindful of us? We are like a breath. Our days are like a passing shadow. We come and go like grass, which in the morning shoots up renewed, and in the evening fades and withers. You cause us to return to the dust, saying, Return, O mortal creatures. Would that we were wise, that we understood where we are going. For when we die, we carry nothing away. So mark the wholehearted and behold the upright. They shall have peace. O God, you redeem the souls of your servants, and none who trust in you shall be desolate. People ask over and over again, Rabbi, why? Why? You know, Moses had the right answer. Hanistarot Ladonai, the mysteries belong to God. We don't know why. I'm not sure it would change anything to know why. We would still have to live with our grief and our sorrow, even in knowing why. There are no answers to why. The answers are to the question, how? How do you continue forth? How do you continue to live your life? How do you continue to find nachas in your children, Chuck? How do you continue to celebrate the joys of their continued life, of the holiday season and of celebrations? How? Those are the questions, or that is the question, we can seek to find. Having just finished Yom Kippur, we said Yizkor. We said the memorial prayers for our loved ones. We ask God to remember them just as we remember them, always. They are never gone from our memory, and Nan will never be gone from your memory. She will continue to exist in here and in the memories you have and the experiences you share. What is it that we can possibly know of death? We cannot yet fully grasp and understand and comprehend life. We study the seed, we study the cell, but the power deep within them elude us. Though we cannot understand it, we accept it. We accept our life as a gift from God. Yet death, life's twin, if you will, we face with great trepidation and fear. There is no pain in death. There is only the pain of the living, as we recall our loved ones and as we ourselves fear to die. God, we pray, calm us when we cry out in our fear and our grief. Turn us anew toward life. Help us, O God, to find still the joy in life and living, in the celebration of the gift that you have given to us. Continue, O God, to be with us as we forge our paths ahead, as we journey forth in life, even without those whom we love. In our tradition, our great rabbis, our sages believed that the most important words to share at a time like this were psalms, the words of psalms. Our rabbis actually tell us that psalms do two things. Number one, they literally, according to our sages, help lift the souls of our departed to the very vault of heaven. And our rabbis believe that words of Psalms were of the greatest comfort and consolation to those who mourn. So I will share with you some Psalms, some of my favorite Psalms. The first being Psalm 15. The psalmist opens with a question. Adonai mi agur be'ohalecha, mi yishkon behar kodeshecha. God, who may abide in your sanctuary, who may dwell upon your holy mountain? Then the psalmist answers his query by saying, those who live with integrity, who do justly, who speak the truth within their hearts. Those who do not slander others or wrong them or bring shame upon them. Those who scorn the lawless but honor those who revere God. Those who give their word and come what may, do not retract. Those who do not exploit others, those who do not take bribes. For those who live in this way shall never be shaken. The reason this is one of my most favored psalms to share is because of the inference that the psalmist gives to us. At the end of life, there's a reward. There's a reward for people. There's a reward for the soul to be with God on his mountain, in his sanctuary. And this psalm makes it crystal clear to us that the person who derives this great just reward at the end of life doesn't necessarily have to be that religiously, or what I might say ritualistically, observant Jew. Doesn't have to be the person that keeps kosher. Doesn't have to be the person that lights candles every Shabbos and holiday. Doesn't have to be the person who puts a mezuzah up on every door. Doesn't have to be the person who puts on a talis and tefillin. Can be. But it all depends upon what kind of human being you are, according to the psalmist. If you're what we consider a mensch, or a gute neshama, someone of good soul, you get this ultimate reward. That's why this psalm to me, as a Reformed Jew, is so important and so meaningful. Because despite how many rituals we observe, the key to this ultimate reward lies in our character and integrity. Therefore, everybody has a shot at this great reward of being with God at the end of life. This, I hope, we can take comfort and consolation in. Not to be the most observant ritually, but a person of character and integrity, a person of virtue, will absolutely lead to the rewards in what we call Olam Haba, the world to come, this next iteration. For indeed, that is something, too, that our tradition strongly believes in. We believe that Nan's soul is as alive and vital this moment as it was weeks, months, years, and decades ago. Now bound up in the bonds of eternal life with God, now found within the hearts and souls of all of you who knew her. But that soul is indeed alive. That soul is indeed in eternal life with God. In fact, the next psalm, which I'll offer, the 23rd psalm, as do many of the psalms, reinforces this belief. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. God makes me to lie down in green pastures. God leads me beside still waters. God restores my soul. Oh God, you guide me in straight paths for your name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You've anointed my head with oil, my cup overflows. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. There you have it. God restores our soul. We will live in the house of the Lord forever. This next iteration, this next world, the world to come, paradise, heaven, Gan Eden, Garden of Eden, whatever you'd like to call it. The psalmist here paints a beautiful picture of it with the words. Lie down in green pastures led by still waters. Tranquility, serenity, peace. That's the reward of the next world. That's what Nan knows now. And again, that reassurance that God restores our soul. And I have no doubt, and I've said it over and over again, when the psalmist speaks of walking through the valley of the shadow of death, I truly believe that's a reference to all of you. And having lost Nan, there is a darkness, a sadness, and a sorrow that you experience. And I always tell people, listen carefully to what the psalmist says. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death. You're not supposed to get stuck here. Shed your tears, cry, grieve, mourn, absolutely. But each in your own time, you got to continue forth your journey. Chuck, when I read this psalm at a service like this, I always say to spouses, children, pay attention. Nan wouldn't want you and the boys stuck in a darkness. She'd want you to move forward and live your life. I know enjoy is not a fit word for right now. But indeed, you must move forward to continue to experience your life and the joys that it can bring. Do it for your sake, and if you can't do it for your sake, do it for Nan's. If she loved you as much as you clearly loved her, she would not want any of you stuck. You know, I said before, I get a lot of those questions that begin with why. Why did my loved one die suddenly? Why did my loved one have to experience this debilitating illness for years? No answers to the why. When we come into this world, we don't get a guarantee. It's not like buying a car or a house. No warranties, no guarantees. Human beings, each and every one of us. As human beings, we are mortal. We are subject to illness, to disease, to difficulty, to challenges. We fail. we fall. When we do, the guarantee, if I can call it that, according to the psalmist, is that goodness and mercy is following us. It's behind us. We don't necessarily have a life that's all good and all merciful. So when we are troubled, when we stumble and fall, goodness and mercy is behind us to come to us at those moments, to strengthen us, to console us, to put us back up on our feet, to continue our journeys until ultimately called by God when we have no idea. And I truly believe that goodness and mercy that the psalmist speaks of, that follows us through our lives, is our loved ones, is our family. The goodness and mercy that Nan had, sitting right here, all of you. Chuck, Craig, Jonathan, all of you. You were here for her whenever she needed. So, even in your grief, I hope and I pray that you can acknowledge not only the blessing that Nan was to all of you, but the blessings you all provided her in her life as well. I'll share words from Ecclesiastes that's probably familiar to most of you. For everything there is a season, a time for every experience under heaven. A time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to uproot what is planted, a time to tear down and a time to build up, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to grieve and a time to dance, a time to throw stones and a time to gather stones, a time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing, a time to seek and a time to lose, a time to keep and a time to discard, a time to tear and a time to sow, a time to keep silence and a time to speak. Ecclesiastes knows all too well that this is our great challenge in our lives. How to deal and navigate these great polar opposites that we human beings experience. In one moment, there's laughter, joy, and exultation, and the next moment, there's tears, sorrow, and heartbreak. Ecclesiastes muses how there's a time for silence and a time to speak. I wish I knew what words I could possibly offer to you that would magically mitigate the grief you feel today. There are no words, nor should there be, for it wouldn't do justice to the love Nan had for you and the love you had for her. But, as you all said to me, today you want to celebrate Nan's life. And we celebrate it through words. And we are privileged today to hear from several friends and family. In this order, so you can follow each other up to the podium here. We'll begin with Nan's older brother, Jay, followed by her nephew and nieces, Brian, Carrie, and Jessica, who'll come up together. Then her cousin, Barry, her dear friend, Bev Strauss, then her boys, first Jonathan, then Craig, and finally, we'll hear from Chuck. So, Jay, you can start.
As the Rabbi said, I'm Nan's brother, Jay Blumenfeld. Thanks, Rabbi. And thank you for all coming today to remember and pay tribute to Nan and support our family. It was beautiful words he said. Thanks. The turnout today is truly overwhelming, and there are many others watching via the Temple's YouTube connection. Nan touched all our lives in such a positive way. There is much for me to say, but no possible way for me to get through it. So, when we all gather after this service, please do not hesitate to reach out to me, and please introduce yourself if I don't already know you. Then we can talk and share about some memories and some good memories. To all of you, thank you so much for your cards, your tributes, your donations to charities, and the kindest of words and thoughts for Nan and about Nan. So that's my brief thing. I'll talk to you guys later. But I'd like to introduce Nan's nieces and nephews, Mary's and my children, Jessica, Carrie, and Brian.
Thank you, Dad, first.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you, Rabbi.
And everybody. I'm Jessica, this is Carrie and Brian. And it is really crazy to think that we are all here celebrating the life of our dear Aunt Nan, when we still can't wrap our heads around the sudden and devastating loss of her just 3 weeks ago. When Chuck, Greg, and John said they were going to hold a service to celebrate Nan, there was no doubt in our minds that we'd want to be here with all of you. We always remember the amazing times we've had with our cool Aunt Nan. And yes, she was cool. She was always up for fun. We were all just up north together for my son's bar mitzvah, and your first stop, Nan's first stop after the airport before joining us was Joe's Pizza. Nan got to have her pizza and her hot dog. We then had one of the best, most memorable weekends together as a family. Nan played kickball, basketball. She roasted marshmallows. And she and I were one of the last ones to bed. And most of all, she enjoyed all of her family. We are so thankful for this last fantastic memory to have with her. And going back in time, many of our childhood memories were with Nan. And now Carrie and I owe her, and Brian will soon, some of the memories that we are creating with our own children now because of Nan. One of the fondest and most precious memories we hold is Nan teaching us how to ski in Colorado. Our grandparents, Ina and Age, and Nan and Chuck would meet us on vacation out west for several winters, and Nan was the only brave enough one to put Jess, Brian, and I in between her legs, holding us as she taught us the skills to ski down the mountain. Those memories helped us to have the courage to teach our children, how to ski, and all but one has graduated out of our legs, and we owe it all to Nan. Nan didn't only do winter lessons with us, she also taught us how to snorkel and jump the humongous waves in the Florida Ocean. Always and recently with our own families, every time we came down to Florida, Nan would always take a day off of work to spend it at the beach with us and our kids. John, Craig, and Chuck would come if they wanted. She was the first to sit on the sand and dig holes for the kids to lay in, build sand castles, and get head-to-toe sandy at any point of the day. She held their hands in the cold ocean waves and gave them the same beach experiences she gave to Jess, Brian, and myself when we were kids. After the beach was always ice cream. No matter what time it was, either right after lunch, right before dinner, it didn't matter. We always stopped at Carvel because that's what Nan said we had to do. Even now, when we take our kids to the Jersey Shore, Jersey Beach, there is no question if there is ice cream after. We always find a way, and we always will, to keep her memory alive. One of our favorite adult memories with Nan is obviously having Chuck's famous martinis.
Work night or weekend, it didn't matter. Just another check off the cool aunt list. From now on, life and visits here will never be the same. But we will still do all the things that Nan loved and continue to create the experiences for our kids that she gave to us. Maybe we'll wait a little bit for the martinis for our kids, though. Okay. There is nothing like a cool aunt, and Nan was exactly that to us and the coolest great aunt to our children. She'll be missed, she's already missed, and she's in our hearts forever.
Thanks, Kay. So I have Nan's nephew, Brian. I want to just echo what my dad said, and from Craig and John and Chuck that they'll tell you, and from my sisters and the rabbi. I thank everyone for coming here. It's a reflection, I think, on Nan's life to see so many people from so many walks of her life to be out here today celebrating with her. I also want to echo what my sister said about Nan being our cool Aunt Nan, and she really was our cool Aunt Nan for the reasons my sisters mentioned, also for many, many more reasons. And in fact, the family bar mitzvah that we were just at, my nephew and Jess's son, Nan was called up to do a reading at the Bima, and the rabbi actually said, "Would cool Aunt Nan please come up to the podium?" And for nieces and nephews to call your aunt cool Aunt Nan or cool Aunt is one thing, but for a rabbi to say it during a service is really, that's something it means something really really true and very real, and particularly meaningful for me in a number of ways. These traits of Nan, as I'm sure all you know, Nan was a very accomplished attorney, and as the one lawyer of the younger generation in our family, I always had Nan to look up to, and still do. Not only was she a super smart lawyer, super fair lawyer, and super smart, super fair person, but I could get off these, I'd have these catch-up calls with Nan, lengthy catch-up calls. We talk about all sorts of stuff, and including some of the legal work I'm working on, some of the work she's working on in her practice with Chuck, and I could walk away from these conversations and remind myself that despite what the conventional wisdom is out there, lawyers can be cool too. Sure, there's plenty of lawyers in the crowd. You could go a long time in your careers or your whole career without, bumping into a lawyer like Nan. And she was always there for me to remind me of that. Of course, Nan was so much more than just a lawyer, just a good lawyer, smart lawyer, accomplished lawyer. She just, got so much out of life, lived such a full life. And just want to make sure I'm not forgetting anything here. I always looked up to Nan for that too. There was so much more to her than just being a lawyer. And followed in her and Chuck's footsteps in some way. My dad used to joke that when Nan and Chuck were young, shortly after law school, they moved to St. Thomas and lived there and practiced law there, and did some good, important work there too. But my dad would joke, they're the beach bum lawyers over there in the islands, and there's some meaningful to that though too, being more than just a lawyer. And I followed in those footsteps somewhat, not moving to the islands and becoming a beach bum lawyer, but moving to the mountains and becoming something maybe of a ski bum lawyer, which I'm very proud of, and I have Nan and Chuck also to look at setting that path for me back when they were young attorneys as well. But as my sisters mentioned, Nan had so much. She played such a huge part in our lives in getting us on skis, teaching us how to ski, getting us into the mountains, appreciating things like that, just as she did. And that was a big part of who she was. It was all about who she was. I could see it. I'm sure all of you could too. You could see it. You could see it in Nan's face, and the way she walked, the way she smiled, the way she got joy out of these things. Like the mountains, or big things like the mountains or the beach, or sunsets and wine with Chuck on the beach, being in the mountains, raising her two, you got Craig and John, just rock solid, amazing sons, And from the little stuff too, from running around with our nieces and nephews and just spending good quality hang time with friends and family, even when the whole family's together. And the nieces and nephews, they can get, I think even their parents will admit, they can kind of be psycho sometimes. They
But
can
Nan
be a
always
little
said-
bit psycho.
And always say, they're so chill.
Yeah. And
She was fine. I had my boys. I'm good. I can handle it all.
she did. She really got joy out of that stuff, the big stuff and the little stuff. I mean, you can just see it. You can see it in her face, and I just don't know how common that is. Really, it sounds pretty simple to really get joy out of life, the big things and the little things. I don't really know how common that is, but with Nan, it was really, really there, and for me, that's something. I want to be more like that. I want to be. More like Nan. And I want to cheers to her too. I want to celebrate her life. I know we don't have cocktails right now, but when we do, or when you do, I want to cheers to Nan. I want to cheers to her life and celebrate her life. And I look forward. We all look forward, and from on behalf of Craig, John, and Chuck, and my dad and my mom and our family, we look forward to chatting with you guys and reminiscing and meeting some of you and spending some time together after this. So, thanks again for being here. And we'll pass it off. Cousin Barry.
Brian, you knocked it out of the park. I am Nan's cousin Barry. I grew up in New Jersey with all the Fishman grandparents, parents, aunts, uncles, and cousins. I moved to Boston long ago after college and a trip to Europe to visit all my cousins and Nan. And Brian, you're making me laugh because she tried to teach me how to ski, but it was a failure. It was a failure. I also hooked up with my cousin Jay and my cousin David while in Europe, and those were the days. Our family gatherings were large and special. Usually 40-plus members would get together for the fabulous meals and close family relations, of which there's other relatives here, so happy. In summers, we would gather at swim clubs in Newark, New Jersey, and Florham Park, and have caravans of at least 12 cars go down the Parkway to Bradley Beach in New Jersey, and we'd all sit around in circles and enjoy the day, and we loved it so. Nan was a very close family member who I have known all of my life. There were special occasions where her older cousin, me, convinced Adrian and Ina, her parents, to allow me to go with Nan to a concert occasionally. Never forget those times. Down the shore. Either, by the way, purple was our favorite color. Nan loved music, and we went to many concerts and enjoyed listening to music and so much of life. Nan and Chuck finally got up to Boston for a visit after many years of trying to coerce, and they got up there, and we enjoyed having them so much with my daughters and girlfriend attending. They did Boston duck tours. We had dinner in the famous North End and cocktails at the top of the hub. Wow. It was a wonderful time. And I am so glad that we were able to spend time at a wonderful bar mitzvah for Cousin Asher just a few weeks ago. There are no words. There are no words. We are all devastated, but it's moving on, and all those good feelings to cherish. She loved her family and was so proud of her sons, Craig and John. Beyond that, each of us in our own way will try to embrace our lives without my beloved BFF and cousin extraordinaire. We were very close and shared everything. Memories are all we have. But none of the occasions compare with Nan, the person so sweet, so positive, so caring, generous and thoughtful. Truly, truly special and loved by so many. When you talked about Nan, everybody loved Nan. I know she wants us all to go on and cherish our lives. She will always be an important part of my life. My dear sweet cousin Nan, the one and only, I am missing you terribly, cuz. All my love forever, Cousin Barry.
As sad as I am that we are here today, it is time to reminisce and rejoice in Nan's life. This is what she wanted, for us to remember all the good and to celebrate all that we love about Nan Blumenthal Bolz. Daughter, wife, mother, friend, attorney, extraordinary, devoted, and dedicated in everything she did and to everyone she loved. Nan was incredible. She generated good energy, sunshine, happiness, and fun. She had a joie de vivre, a love of life, and a gute neshama, a good soul to go along with it. Nan took everything in her stride. She never got ruffled as she handled business, illness, and life. She took on every challenge with confidence and strength. But most remarkable of all was how Nan appreciated all of life's blessings, all its sunrises and sunsets, nature, flowers, Rocky the cat, all the people she knew, and all the people she loved. She loved her parents with utter devotion. I hope she is with them now. She loved Chuck, truly her best friend and greatest source of strength. She loved Craig and Jonathan with all her heart, and she was so very proud of who they were as children and who they are now as men. She loved her brother Jay, her nieces, her nephews, her cousins, who brought her so many happy times. And she also lovingly embraced the rest of us, her many, many friends. Personally, I have known Nan for 30 years. We met over a real estate transaction. The entire 6-week escrow was a total fiasco, and Nan used all of her patience, her diplomacy, and her legal acuity to get things done. Nan was aggressive in the nicest of ways, firm when she needed to be, and incredibly self-assured. I couldn't wait to meet this powerhouse of a woman over that closing table in person. And when I did, I was really, really impressed. She went above and beyond to close that property. And afterward, in the elevator, we laughed over all the problems we were forced to resolve. Naturally, I turned to her and invited her for a glass of wine. From that day forward, we became the best of friends. Respect for one another turned into a closeness, and we found we had many, many things in common. Both of us were from the same area in New Jersey. Both of us were exceptionally close to our parents. Both of us were extremely close to our children. And both of us were strong in our convictions, and thus we naturally and totally connected. What followed over the next 30 years were many joyful celebrations. Our March birthday dinners that we shared with our very dear friend Rodney. Chuck's pyromaniac 4th of July celebrations. Many double dates, dinners, barbecues, and lots of specialty martinis. We shared our children's accomplishments, their bat and bar mitzvahs, and all their graduations. Nan was the first to tell me I should marry that guy, David Strauss, and then advised me as I planned our wedding. Nan also gave her stamp of approval when my daughter, Molly, married Connor. She shared my joy at the births of my three grandchildren, where Nan came straight to the hospital when the first one was born and grabbed little Vicky right out from my daughter's arms. Molly looked at me and just could do nothing but smile. Mom! But there was no one else except Nan Bolz who could get away with a move like that. We shared lots of holidays, both Jewish and secular, and we especially enjoyed many Passovers together, where Nan and Chuck submitted their legal argument that brisket night should be both nights, and therefore the menu was forever changed: brisket and a little bit of chicken for David. To say I connected to Nan like a sister would be an understatement. In fact, my daughter Molly told me the other day she felt Nan was like an aunt to her and the boys her little cousins. Not very little anymore, kind of tall little cousins. I needed and took Nan's advice often. I trusted her with my deepest concerns, thoughts, and feelings, and shared with her my ups and downs. In return, she was sisterly to me when she did the same. We both faced cancer with the other one in our corner. And for me, she was an invaluable source of strength, especially then. I have been so fortunate having her in my life, and I know every one of you feels exactly that same way. What a testament to such an exceptional woman that so many of us were lucky enough to call her our best friend. Nan, I promise you, Chuck, Craig, and Jonathan will remain a part of our family every day, always, not only on brisket night. I love you, Nan, my dear, dear friend, and I miss you. I always, always will.
I'm going to try to get through this speech. Thank you for all the kind words and the speeches. All of you said beautiful things about Mom, and she loved all of you guys so dearly, and thank you, Rabbi, as well. First of all, I want to thank everyone for being here. Something that I've always known but has become even more apparent in the recent weeks is the amount of lives that Mom touched. She loved and was loved by so many people from so many different walks of her life, and many of you are here today. Many are watching online. From the bottom of my heart, I want to thank all of you for being here to honor her legacy. I know that she would appreciate and love all the support shown for her, and love the support shown for my dad, brother, and I as well. So thank all of you for being here. Thank you for that. There are some people in this world who are just special. People who brighten the lives of everyone they meet. People who leave lasting impacts on everyone lucky enough to call them friend or family. My mom was one of those people. Mom's passing is not just devastating to our family, but a major loss for the world. Not a day will go by where I don't think of her. Not a day will go by where I don't miss her. It's been difficult to remain positive throughout this experience, but I keep hearing Mom's voice in my head telling me to find a way. For her sake, I'm going to try. I consider myself very lucky, very lucky to have had her in my life, very lucky to have her guidance. From proofreading every single essay, unfortunately not this speech, but every other essay I've ever written, to advising me on professional decisions, to helping me through my love life and relationships, to helping me, more recently buy my first home, which I could have never done without her. Her guidance has made me who I am, and I will greatly miss our daily phone calls. After she got off work, she would call me every day. I would be walking Kobe, my dog, and she would be on her way home from work. I'm lucky to have grown up in a household filled with love. I'm lucky for Wednesdays. When I was younger, I would look forward to every Wednesday because even though Mom worked a full-time, every Wednesday was special because she would pick us up from school. And she would take us to get ice cream after school or to McDonald's or wherever. I'm lucky for all the trips to the beach. That was her favorite place. She loved it there, and we went there often and would take long walks on the beach, and that's where we talked about life, and that's where we figured out what was going on in life, and that was her favorite place in the world. I'm lucky to have such a great sports partner. The Marlins games were always on in the house, and they even clinched the playoffs last night for her. Yeah. I love talking about our favorite South Florida sports teams and, of course, the Georgia Bulldogs football. By the way, she probably wouldn't be happy with us for doing this during the Dolphins game right now. I'm lucky for our impromptu ice cream dates. She was always my dessert partner. Never, someone else said it, the kids, didn't matter what time of day, it was always time for dessert. I'm lucky to have moved back in with Mom and Dad in 2020 when everything locked down. She always called those couple of years her bonus years, but now I know for sure that those were our bonus years. Most of all, I'm extremely lucky to have had 29 amazing years with someone who I consider to be the greatest person in the world as my mother. And 29 years was not always certain. As many of you know, Mom developed a severe case of breast cancer when Craig and I were very little. I couldn't even imagine what life would be like if we had lost her then. So I'm forever thankful that she was able to overcome that terrible prognosis. I witnessed my mom in the past 5 years lose both of her parents, my grandparents. What I learned from that is it doesn't matter what age you lose your parents, it's always unbelievably painful. I know Mom thought of her mom and dad every single day and missed them very dearly. I always admired that Mom was able to see signs of her mom and dad throughout her life. The year my grandmother passed away, on her birthday, a single flower bloomed on the gardenia tree that she had gifted my mom, despite it not being in season. Mom saw this as proof that her mother was watching over her. Every year since, the flowers returned. Even this year, just a few months ago, August 30th, Mom remarked Ina's flower had come back. While spirituality is not my strong suit, I know I'll never see my mom if I don't look for her. For that reason, I will always look for her. I promise to. In every sunset, in every purple flower, in every Beatles song, at the beach where the ocean meets the sky, I'll always look for her. Thank you, Mom. I love you.
Thank you, everyone, for coming today. Nobody would have appreciated you all being here more than my mom. Also, thank you to Rabbi Silvers and the entire Congregation B'nai Israel team for hosting us. I truly wish this was under better circumstances. This has been the most challenging speech I've ever had to write. Sometimes words fail and cannot adequately express the gravity of your emotions. My mom is the most important person in the world to me. She was my greatest friend and was there for me absolutely no matter what. She was the most caring, loving, and wise person. Mom was always the person that I went to whenever anything good or bad happened in my life. When it was good, we would celebrate, and when it was bad, she was always the person that helped me through it. There was nobody better at helping through a challenging time than my mom. She had the compassion, intelligence, and warmth to make you feel better and help you do the right thing. She played the role of problem solver, trusted advisor, friend, and sometimes amateur psychologist in many people's lives. Despite being incredibly busy with work when I was growing up, Mom would frequently follow me in golf tournaments. She was my biggest fan, also probably my only fan. There was one tournament she was following me in when I was 14, and I was playing the worst round of golf of my entire life. Nothing was going right for me, and my ball seemed to have a magnet in it for the water and out of bounds. It was super frustrating, and I went to Mom after 9 holes and said that I wanted to pretend to be sick so I could withdraw from the tournament and save myself the embarrassment of posting a terrible score. She said to me that it would be far worse to quit than to have a bad score. Even though she agreed quitting would be the logical thing to do, she said I should never give up, no matter what. Never giving up was advice Mom frequently told me over the years, and something she lived by and knew firsthand. 27 years ago, when I was only 4 years old, Mom was diagnosed with an unlikely prognosis of breast cancer. She went through chemo, stem cell therapy, and surgery, and she continued to work 100% full-time despite all this happening. And Jonathan and I never even realized she was sick during this time. Ultimately, she beat cancer and came out the other side with a profound appreciation for the gift of life and lived each day with gratitude. Mom's zest for life and passion was infectious to everyone who knew her. She famously loved riding her bike every morning and spreading her enthusiasm with the neighbors, walking on the beach, being outside in nature, and simply being with friends and family. She would always try to remind me to enjoy the small things. Mom had a fundamental optimism for life in every situation, no matter how bad it was. She was always see the silver lining, or at least have a plan to get to the light at the end of the tunnel. Mom raised us while building a successful real estate-focused legal practice that she founded and operated with my dad. She was a legendary lawyer who served thousands of clients over a 40-plus year career. She was known for being able to make the impossible possible. There are countless stories of her getting deals done that everybody had written off, or getting the most difficult people in the world to do the right thing. She was a professional peacemaker, but also had the ability to lay down the law and go to war when it meant protecting her clients, friends, and family, or as Grandma Ina would put it, showing up carrying an umbrella. Mom's business success came from treating people right and doing right by them all times. She treated everyone in business as though they were a friend, and in many cases, they became a true friend. Many people here today became friends with Mom because they worked together, a style that seems to be lost in the business world today. There is no way to describe what has happened other than it being a total tragedy. This has been the most tragic and heartbreaking thing to ever happen. However, if Mom were here, she would be the one telling us not to dwell on that and to celebrate the time we had with her. She would tell us to find the optimism in this horrible situation, even though it seems impossible. She would be telling us to never give up and to stay strong. I keep coming back to a quote from one of Mom's and my favorite authors, J.R.R. Tolkien, who said, "For what of God's punishments are not gifts?" For the longest time, I interpreted this quote to mean how you react to a situation can turn a punishment into a gift. However, now I actually realize what Tolkien meant. When looking at any perceived punishment in its fullest context, you can find God's gift. 27 years ago, if the doctors were right about the cancer, we'd have lost Mom before I ever even knew her. The most beautiful gift in the world has been having her in my life during this time, and for the incredible times we have had together, and for the lessons we have learned from her. Even though she has passed on, I can still hear her voice in my head encouraging me to stay strong. Mom had to go through this exact grieving process over the last couple of years with my grandparents, Ina and Poppy, who we all loved so dearly and passed away. Mom was with them every second, caring for them and holding their hands until they passed. Perhaps we can all take some solace in our grief, knowing that she is now with Ina and Poppy again. She was a great person in every sense of the word, and the best mother that a son could have. May her memory be a blessing for everyone. I'd like to make her proud.
First of all, I'd like to thank you all for being here today and watching on the stream. The reason that we're having this, well, there's two reasons we're having this today, and that's Craig and John. I was in a sort of a state of numbness, and they decided that this was something that should be done. And then they decided what it should be, and then they got everything organized, and this is all while taking care of me. And they are truly their mother's sons. Originally, I didn't think I'd be able to get up and speak. And then I thought about Nan and said I had to get up there and speak. And so I'm going to do my best to get through this. And first of all, we're so grateful to so many of you who have reached out to us to express their sorrow, offer condolences, and most importantly, express their love and appreciation for Nan. We hope that being here today can bring some solace to you. The thoughts sent expressed how everyone who knows Nan feels about her and how they appreciate her, how good and kind and caring and wonderful Nan is. John and Craig and I can tell you, though, that in reality, Nan is a billion times more good and kind and caring and loving and beautiful and wonderful than anyone could possibly imagine. I could go on for days and not even scratch the surface expressing who she is. She's the best of us. She's the heart and soul of our family. We met in law school. We were first friends and then girlfriend and boyfriend. And very soon we became us, just us, and that was that. We were together so naturally, with love that just kept growing stronger and deeper and more joyful and comforting every day. When I was young, I would hear and read about the romantic thought of finding the one person you were meant to be with, your true love, your soulmate, the person you would want to spend all eternity with. And being young and a little cynical, I thought, oh yeah, that's fairy tale stuff. But with Nan, I quickly realized I was living that fairy tale. I had somehow found all of that and so much more. Us together made me happier than I'd ever been. Happier than I thought it was possible to be. I thought that this is perfect and can't possibly be any better. But it turns out that I was wrong about that. Because then we had Craig and John. And what I thought was perfect blossomed into a love and joy and fulfillment beyond comprehension. For Nan and me, the four of us together is everything. It didn't matter what we were doing or when we were together, everything was bright. Nan and I couldn't imagine going anywhere or doing anything without Craig and John. Our time with them wasn't the fulfillment of parental obligations. It was the fulfillment of our lives. Nothing gives Nan more joy, more overwhelming love and proudness than Craig and John. They're everything to her. They have always been absolute joys. There has never been a second of their lives when they weren't bringing infinite happiness into our life. We are and have always been so proud and amazed at who they are. Every day with them since we held them as babies and continuing on endlessly has gotten and keeps getting better and better. And there's no question that who they are and have always been and the incredible men they've grown to be comes from having the best, most wonderful, loving, caring, nurturing, and inspiring mother ever. I knew that better than anyone and saw it every day, and yet was still constantly amazed. Nan and I decided to try to work together when John and Craig were young. We realized that working separately, we had very limited time flexibility, and thought if we worked together, we would have much more flexibility in being able to coordinate life and spend much more time as we could together as a family. For me, working with Nan was joy. For Nan, working with me was a testament to her love and patience. It was that, though, that let me coach baseball and soccer for both boys. Nan never missed a school event. She never missed a mitzvah day with the boys here at the temple. Never missed serving Thanksgiving dinner to the people in need at the Ebenezer Baptist Church, or taking Craig and John to deliver Rosh Hashanah baskets and spend time visiting with elderly people who were alone and in need. Dear Molly O'Grady, who helped so much with this today, for her bat mitzvah project started what she called Hats for Kids, gathering hats for children with cancer undergoing treatment. When she was about to go off to college, she expressed that she really hoped that she could find someone to continue it on. Craig, who was 11 at the time, told Nan and me that he wanted to take it forward. And I'll never forget Nan first telling him how proud she was that he wanted to do it. She then told him, in the sweet, motherly way in which she always advised and counseled the boys, that if he did take on a project like this, it was going to be his responsibility to really do it and do it the way it should be done. He thought for a minute, and he looked at us, and he said he was going to do it. And that's what he did. He went forward, and he did it. Craig, with Nan's help, and John joining in, and then Craig and John working together, solicited and gathered contributions and gifts of thousands of caps and hats from sports teams, companies, and others. When they had a good number together, Nan would contact the pediatric oncology ward directors at various local hospitals like Joe DiMaggio or St. Mary's, who knew our boys and loved and welcomed their visits. Nan took them there where they played games with the kids who were able to go into the playrooms. They then went room to room, visiting with the kids who couldn't get out of bed, letting them pick some caps or hats that they liked, with their inspiring mom brimming with pride for what her boys were doing. While she was crying inside, seeing all these terribly sick children, she helped Craig and John find the strength to do it. Craig and Jonathan still remember that after they visited and gave caps to one young girl alone in her room, a nurse came up to them and told them that it was the first time she had ever seen the girl smile. When COVID hit, Craig and John both decided to move back in with us. They were in big apartment buildings and just wanted to be back home. And Nan and I could not have been more thrilled by that. We called it our bonus time. We never thought that we'd have them both living home with us again, and all of a sudden it was the four of us together. And we did feel sort of guilty that so many people were going through so much, and we were as happy as we could possibly be. Every day that we've been together, I fully realize and I'm amazed that somehow I have the most wonderful wife and partner ever. With boundless love and goodness, who I could not love more. We have two beyond incredible sons and a wonderful life that Nan created and sustained for us. And I don't know why this thought came to me, but for some reason, I began thinking about the old traditional wedding vows, like we recited at our wedding. To love, honor, and cherish you till death do us part, were the words. For us, that concept wasn't really a vow or a statement of commitment. For us, it was always a state of being, who we are. For us, the words really should be, I always have and always will love you, honor you, and cherish you forever, forever and ever. I want to thank Rabbi Silvers for being here today and for being here since our boys first came here in preschool. And I realized there was something that I'd never said to him that I think is important. And my boys came here in preschool. We saw the temple go through many changes over the years. And one true constant here, when looking back, is that Rabbi Silvers has, without question, been the true kind heart of this temple. And we really appreciate that. And again, thank you all for coming.
Thank you, one and all, who came up this afternoon and shared so beautifully. Friday night began the Jewish holiday of Sukkot. It's one of the 3 pilgrimage festivals. It's a week-long celebration and holiday of gratitude. Our Thanksgiving, if you wish, celebrating not only the fall harvest, but our gratitude to God for the blessings God bestows upon us. Well, at the end of Sukkot, there's another festival. The rabbis talk about whether or not it is in fact the last day of Sukkot or a festival unto itself. It's called Shmini Atzeret. Shmini, the Hebrew word meaning 8, falls on the 8th day after Sukkot begins. Shmini Atzeret was a time when our ancestors, those who made pilgrimage to Jerusalem to give thanks to God at the temple, would start to make their final rounds to bid farewell to friends with whom they had shared the 7 days of Sukkot. And the fact that we recite the Yizkor prayer on this holiday reminds us that all whom we love are mortal, and the time must come when we have to take leave of them as well. A 19th century scholar and rabbi, Yaakov Meckelberg, helped to enlarge our understanding of this holiday, Shmini Atzeret, when he pointed out that the word Atzeret in Hebrew means retain. And he taught that this, the 8th day of Sukkot, the Atzeret, this closing day of the festival, was the time when we sought to retain some of the religious fervor and the heightened spirit of the holiday season. It's human to hold on as long as we can to that which is precious to us. However, even when we must take leave of one another, we can still retain that which is significant. For God has given us the power to remember. Memory is a faculty which enables us to make the past a present reality and to keep alive the challenges surmounted, the joys experienced, the sorrows faced throughout the years that we were privileged to share with our beloved, precious family members. The passing of Nan leaves us sad at the thought that we will no longer be able to be with her. At the same time, we are deeply grateful for the wonderful memory we retain of a good, loving human being. Zichrona livracha. May her memory continue to be a blessing to all who knew her. Let's take a moment of silence that each of us can offer our own individual thoughts in prayers as we remember Nan Bolz. Eloheinu v'Elohei Avotenu, our God and God of our ancestors, let the tender memories we have of Nan, whose words, actions, and personality enriched our lives, now fill our hearts. And from the thought of them, let us receive that hallowed inspiration that will serve as a beacon as we proceed on our way in life. Friends, if you are able to, I'll ask you to rise as I will now offer the memorial prayer for Nan. El male rachamim, shochein b'hamromi. Hamitzei menuche nechona, tacha kanfei hashchina, b'malot kedoshim utehorim, kezohar ki hamazhirim. Et nishmat Freda Yitabat Avram Yitzchak, שהלכה לעולמה, בגן עדן תהא מנוחתה, אנא בלה רחמים, הסתיריה בסתר כנפיך לעולמים. וצרור בצור החיים את נשמתה, Adonai hu nachalata v'tanuch b'shalom. Al mishkava v'nomar amen. O God, exalted and full of compassion, grant perfect peace in your sheltering presence among the holy and pure to the soul of Nan Bolz, who is gone to her eternal home. Master, mercy, we beseech you, remember all the worthy and righteous deeds that she performed in the land of the living. May her soul be bound up in the bond of eternal life. The eternal God is now her portion and her sure inheritance. May she rest in peace, and we all say, Amen. Adonai natan v'Adonai lakach, yehi shem Adonai mavarach. The Lord has given, now the Lord has taken from us, but blessed be the name of God. For those who mourn and those who wish, we join together in the mourner's Kaddish. There's a prayer book in the rack beneath your seat. If you want to join in, you can take out the prayer book, turn to page 294. That's where you'll find the mourner's Kaddish. And together we join. Page 294. Yitgadal v'yitgadash merabah, be'alma divrach irute v'yamlich malchute, b'chayechon v'yomechon v'chaye dechol Beit Yisrael, b'agalav izman kariv v'imru. Amen. Yehi shmei rabbah mevarach le'olam u'lomei maya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh, V'yitadar, v'yitaleh, v'yitalal, shmei dekucha brichu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tush b'chata v'nechemata, damiran be'alma v'imru. Amen. Yehe shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chaim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. Oseh shalom b'imromav, u'yaseh shalom. Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. May the source of peace on high send peace and comfort to all who mourn and all the bereaved among us, and we say amen. Friends, I appreciate it if you return the prayer books back to the rack underneath the chair. On behalf of the entire Bolz family, I thank you for your presence here today. The family requests any donations made in Nan's memory be made to curebreastcancerfoundation.org. Again, that's curebreastcancerfoundation.org. The family will be receiving, following the service, in the North Social Hall. That's out your doors at the rear, to your right, and into the North Social Hall, where they will greet you. And again, may you continue to be a presence in their lives that will help provide them support and consolation. Again, thank you all for your presence. I'm going to ask you to kindly remain at your seats while the immediate family departs the sanctuary first, and as they depart and leave the sanctuary, you may then join behind them. Thank you, friends.